Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Sri Radha Madhava ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Vraja Gajaja Sudara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Vraja Gajaja Sudara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Krantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ambarish Maharaj ki jai, the reformed Durvas Muni ki jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, Sisi Guru and Siddhi Gauranga. Krishna Staya Murli Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Sangha Paracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Bhaskachadi Shatarini. Missing anyone? Everyone's accounted for? Okay. Here it comes. There we go. Can't start without you, Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vāsudevaya. So this morning reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Chapter 5, Text 25. Evam Vidhan Eka Guna Sa Raja Paratmani Brahmani Vāsudeve Kriya Kalapai Samubhaha Bhaktim Yayavarinchan Nirayams Chakara. Evam Vidaneka Guna. No, that's the other one. Okay. Evam Vinaneka Gunai Saraja Bharatmani Brahmani Vāsudeve Kriya Kalapai Samuvaha Bhakti Jaya Bharinchan Nirayam Chakara. Evam Vidaneka Gunai Saraja Paratmani Brahmani Vāsudeve Kriya Kalapai Samuvaha Bhakti Jaya Bharinchan Nirayam Chakara. Evam Vidaneka Guna Saraja Paratmani Brahmani Vāsudeve Kriya Kalapai Samuvaha Bhakti Yaya Bharinchan Nirayam Chakara. Would like to chant? Evam Vinaneka Gunai Saraja
Prabhu, your microphone is died or switched off.
Evam Vidaneka Gunai Saraja Paratmani Brahmani Vāsudeve Kriya kalapaya bahuvaha bhaktim yayavarinjan yurayam chakara Ibam vinake gunai saraja Paratmani Brahmani Vāsudeva Kriya kalapai samuvaha bhaktim Yayavarincham nirayam chakara. Anyone in outer space? Evam, in this way, vidha aneka guna, endowed with varieties of good qualities. Saha, he, Maharaj Ambarisha, Raja, the king, Para-atmani, unto the Supersoul, Brahmani, unto Brahman, Vāsudeva, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vāsudeva. Krishna, Vāsudeva. Kriya, kalapai, by practical activities. Samuvaha, executed. Bhaktim, devotional service. Yaya, by such activities. Avarinchan, beginning from the topmost planet. Nirayan, down to the hellish planets. Chakara, he experienced that there is danger everywhere. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this way, because of devotional service, Maharaj Ambarisha, who was endowed with varieties of transcendental qualities, was completely aware of Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus he executed devotional service perfectly. Because of his devotion, he thought even the topmost planet of this material world no better than the hellish planets. Purport. An exalted and pure devotee like Maharaj Ambarisha is in full awareness of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. In other words, a devotee of Vāsudeva, Krishna, is in full knowledge of the other features of the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth is realized in three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. A devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vāsudeva, knows everything. Vāsudeva Sarvamiti. Because Vāsudeva, Krishna, includes both Paramatma and Brahman. One does not have to realize Paramatma by the yoga system, for the devotee always thinking of Vāsudeva is the topmost yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham. And as far as Gyan is concerned, if one is a perfect devotee of Vāsudeva, he is the greatest Mahatma. Vāsudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sadurlabha. A Mahatma is one who has full knowledge of the Absolute Truth. Thus Maharaj Ambarisha, being a devotee of the Personality of Godhead, was in full awareness of Paramatma, Brahman, Maya, the material world, the spiritual world, and how things are going on everywhere. Everything was known to him. Yasmin bigate sarvam evam bigatam bhavati. Because the devotee knows Vāsudeva, he knows everything within the creation of Vāsudeva. Vāsudeva sarmiti sa mahatma sadurlabha. Such a devotee does not give much value to the highest standard of happiness within this material world. Narayana parasarve na kutascha bibyati svarga pavarga narakeshvu api tulyartha darshinaha. Bhagavatam 6th Canto 17th Chapter 28th Verse. Because he is fixed in devotional service, a devotee does not regard any position in the material world as important. Srila Prabhupada Saraswati has therefore written in the Caitanya Chandramrita 5, Kaivalyam narakayate tridasha purakasha pushpayate durdanta tindriya kalasarpa patali prokthatadam statrayate vishvam purna sukhayate vidi mahindra daschakit chintayate yat karuna kataksha vaibhavan vantam tam gauram eva stumaha. For one who becomes a pure devotee through devotional service to great personalities like Caitanya Mahāprabhu, kaivalya, or merging into Brahman, appears no better than hell. As far as the heavenly planets are concerned, to a devotee they are like a phantasmagoria or will-o'-the-wisp. And as far as yogic perfection is concerned, a devotee does not care a fig for such perfection, since the purpose of yoga perfection is achieved automatically by the devotee. This is all possible when one becomes a devotee of the Lord through the medium of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. Om Agyan Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Tyaksulanminitam Dena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Caitanya Marobhistam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svabadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakti Barinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikapatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patidanam Bhavani Bho Vaishnave Bho Namo Namaha. All glories to all the assembled devotees of the Lord. In this way, because of devotional service, Maharaj Ambarisha, who was endowed with varieties of transcendental qualities, was completely aware of Brahman, Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus he executed devotional service perfectly. Because of his devotion, he thought even the topmost planet of this mature world no better than the hellish planets. So, first point Prabhupada is making is that this is there in the first count of the Bhagavatam, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. There are three phases or aspects of the Absolute Truth. It's all one, but there's variety there. And Brahman, Paramatma, and ultimately Bhagavan. And there are different levels of realization. Sometimes Prabhupada compared it to the sun. You have the sunlight, you have the sun globe, and then you actually have the inhabitants of the sun planet, which is inconceivable to us, isn't it? To exist on a planet like that. But because their bodies are made of fire, they can do it. So, but the preliminary realization of the Absolute Truth is called Brahman, understanding that there is spirit everywhere behind all of this. And that's a big jump for people these days, right? And that it's considered unscientific. I was just listening to, again, Saraput in his Origins lectures, and he was talking about in fact, it's called Occam's razor, I think, isn't it? Occam's razor? It's Occam's razor? That any explanation should be very, very simple. There should be a simple explanation for everything. So he's making a point that, for us to say, because the question comes up, consciousness and the link between consciousness and the body. What is that link? Now, if we're aware and we're doing things with this body, right? Scratching here like this, or wiggling a little bit, like that, laughing. So we're doing all kinds of things. We're the conscious entity inside, but our body is moving according to our will, more or less. So what is that connection? How are those two connected? The two different energies. And we say it's a supersoul. And they go, wait a second. And he gives the example. He said, you're trying to tell me that just for me to move my arm like this, I have to believe in some all-powerful God who's, controlling all elements in the universes and everything, and he's the one moving my arm. Isn't there a more easy material explanation about muscles and nerves and, something going on in the brain? Why do we have to bring in something spiritual, right? There must be a material explanation for all these things that we can actually understand as rational human beings and scientists and so on. So that's what they're trying to do, is remove any mention or thought of there must be a spiritual dimension, and everything can be explained in terms of matter. Well, they've been trying to do that for a long time, and no explanations come in yet. In fact, it seems to be eluding them even more and more. So that's a problem they have. That's a problem. So the fact that the soul is there, the consciousness is there, it's all over, that's a big jump for people. And the qualification for understanding spiritual matters, you know what that qualification is? But even that, to take up oral reception, you have to have some punya. That's what we say. You have to become pious. Impiety blocks your ability to perceive subtle spiritual matters. So that's very important. Therefore, it's the duty of all leaders in society to engage people in pious activities. You can look at it this way. Religion brings you to the threshold of spiritual life. Because what's religion? Usually it's a bunch of moral codes, ethics, moral codes, how to live in this world without being violent towards others and truthful, and so many different things, right? What is that? Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. No. Boy Scouts. And they took reverent out, you know that? After I left. Not because of me, but I heard they took reverent out. There's supposed to be no mention of God whatsoever. That's the most important one, but they took it out. So that's another example of what we're talking about. So all of these good qualities, then one actually becomes more sensitive and can begin to understand spiritual subject matter. And the very first thing is just an understanding there must be some kind of spiritual energy behind all of this. But that doesn't answer all the questions. And then we have the Lord in the heart, Paramatma. That's what all the yogis are trying to find by their meditation and so on, the Lord in the heart. And Prabhupada says that they make the mistake sometimes, just almost at the point of perfection, they see the Paramatma and think it's them. I'm the soul, super soul. And that's like the sun planet. And then inside the sun planet, there's personalities, and that's Vivaswan and all the many residents of the sun. And that's the Bhagavan, the supreme personality of Godhead. And you have discussions with people. I always bring up the point: unless you come to the level of Bhagavan, a person, you actually cannot answer the most important questions in life. You can't. Because you never comes up, who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Who's in control of all of this? You have to start thinking about Paramatma and ultimately Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the point being made here is the devotee knows all of these features. The person understanding Brahman doesn't understand Paramatma or Bhagavan. Person understanding Paramatma can understand Brahman, and Paramatma does understand Bhagavan, but the one who understands Bhagavan understands all three because they're all within Bhagavan. They're all within Bhagavan. So devotees are in a superior position, and they can understand all of these things. They can explain to people. Just like if you have $1,000, you easily have $20, $100. It's all contained within the $1,000, not a problem. Something costs $20, not a problem. Something costs $500, not a problem, because it's within $1,000. So this is why, says Maharaj Ambarish was very expert in all of his devotional service, because he understood these different features of the Lord. He understood that Brahman is everywhere. Everywhere, the spiritual energy is everywhere, in different forms. Of course, the jiva is the most important here. And Paramatma is there in the heart. And what was this hearing? The Bhagavad Gita. About 13th chapter, about seeing the soul in every form of life. And if you don't, you degrade yourself. You degrade yourself. And exactly what the term was in the purport. In other words, if we look at others and don't see them as spirit souls, it's a type of violence. It's a type of violence, like that. So it's very important to see that every spirit soul everywhere, to see the Supreme Lord in the heart of every living entity. That kind of changes things, doesn't it? It really changes everything. If every single living entity, we looked at them, we saw the soul and the super soul, how would things change? we'd probably never get off the ground. We'd be paying obeisances to everything. We were talking about that earlier today, Dravid and I. How many times do we pay obeisances to devotees? I mean, we'd be just like, it would be just be crawling around, just paying obeisances, because everywhere you see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's quite and that's what's actually going on. That's the perfect vision. And therefore, it says that the devotee of the Lord, a Vaishnava, doesn't have any enemies, because he sees everyone as spirit, soul, and the Supreme Lord there right with that living entity. So how could he, just like in this pastime, Maharaj Ambarish just stood there. When the demoness was coming, he just stood there. And Krishna's here. Krishna will take care of everything. He had complete faith. Whereas Durvas Muni didn't see that at all. As soon as Sudarshan came, he started running like that. He could have turned and just said, "Oh, I'm very sorry. I made a big mistake. Ambarish is a great devotee. You're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever you're going to do, go ahead and do it, but please forgive me." But he didn't do that. It took him some time to come around to that realization. So, because the devotee is aware of all these different features, they're very, very exalted platform. Prabhupada says, he quotes this verse in Bhagavad Gita twice in the purport, this Vāsudevam Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sadulabha. A great soul is one who knows that Krishna or Vāsudeva is everything. Now, how he's everything, that's we have to discuss. It's all one, but there's variety in that oneness. But Krishna is ultimately behind everything. Let's see here. Just like Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu, everything's Krishna's energies. Just listening to a lecture recently by Sridhar Maharaj, our Sridhar Maharaj. And, he spent many, many, many years in India, and in his position there in Mumbai especially, befriended some of the wealthiest people in India, making them life members and so on. And he was telling the story about Birla, I don't know, elderly at the time when he was there, maybe the patriarch of the family, and how there was one factory, Alco or something, it's aluminum or metal or something, huge enterprise. Very, of course, they're very, very, to this day, very, very wealthy, very, very successful family. But he's making the point that that gentleman, he would only go to that factory maybe once or twice a year, just to kind of check things out. And when he came to the factory, the first place he went, when he walked into the factory, can anyone guess? The cafeteria close? Huh? No? Yes, he went to the employee bathrooms first, because he figured, depending on how clean these bathrooms are, that shows the consciousness of my employees. Anyone want to check out the bathrooms back there after class? Right? That's something for our management, and all the devotees, not just management. He was a very smart man. He knew exactly where to find out the consciousness of his employees. Went right to the employee bathroom to check how clean it was. They never knew when he was coming. It's not like, the boss is coming, quick, clean the bathroom. There's that story of Prabhupada inspecting the Radha Damodar bus. You know that story? And the Prabhupada's coming, so they just shoved everything into the shower stall in the bathroom on the bus. And Prabhupada walked in and walked right to the back of the bus, took his cane and opened the curtain. He knew exactly what was going on. So anyways, that's something. So anyways, the point Sridhar Maharaj was making was that even though he only came once or twice a year, everyone completely felt his presence all day long, every day the factory was opened. His energies were present. And they were very, very, of course, his picture was there in different places and so on, but he trained them all very, very well, and everyone was very respectful and always mindful of the fact that this is Mr. Birla's factory, and we're here working on his behalf, and so on and so on and so on. The consciousness was very, very prevalent, throughout the whole factory. So the devotee, they gave that example, devotee in this material world is very, very conscious. Oh, this is Krishna's temple. Not just Krishna's temple, but Grand Avenue belongs to Krishna. Did you know that? Both sides. And the medium down the middle belongs to Krishna. The fire station at the end belongs to Krishna. And you can ask Sankarshan, he will confirm that the ocean belongs to Krishna, like that, because he goes swimming a lot, right? Everything belongs to Krishna. And then Garnet, believe it or not, Garnet, with all those bars, it belongs to Krishna. He's not so happy with what they're doing there, but it's his problem. Everything belongs to Krishna. It's all Krishna's energy. So, very important verse. Another very important verse quoted is this one by Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva spoke this in the sixth canto. It's out of the pastime with Chitraketu Maharaj, this Narayana Parasarve. Is that Lord Shiva speaking to Parvati? Because you know the story that Chitraketu Maharaj said something he probably shouldn't have said, jokingly, but Parvati was, what happened, if you know the story, he was flying around in his super duper 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 Chitraketu 1 flying machine, and he was there in Kailash, and Lord Shiva was giving Bhagavatam class with his wife on his lap, right next to him. Now what would you do if I did that? Huh? You'd laugh. Okay. I'd probably laugh too. Okay. So it was like, what are you doing? You know, all the sages are gathered around. Lord Shiva's there with his wife talking Bhagavatam. And of course, they're a very exalted couple, but still, he made some joke. And she didn't like it. And she cursed him. Cursed him to take birth as a demon. And Chitraketu Maharaj completely accepted the whole thing. And Parvati realized, I think I made a mistake. And actually it was pointed out to you, you made a mistake. You cursed a great devotee of Krishna. And then in this particular verse, this Narayana Parasarve, that the devotees, it says, solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. So we're talking about Maharaj Ambarish, he's in that category. Never fear any condition of life, because he was just cursed to take birth, fall down, take birth as a demon, a horrible demon, and he was completely undisturbed by it. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same, for such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. So, making the point here also, Lord Shiva was making the point that it's not just Chitraketu Maharaj, but all the great devotees of Krishna, Vāsudeva, they come to that level of consciousness that they don't fear any condition of life. What's his name? My God, brother. No, he wrote the biographies, helped write the biographies on Bhakti Vinod Thakur. The latest one, No Fear. What's his name? Lives in England, Prabhu. Rupa Vilas. So he asked Prabhupada what Krishna consciousness, what does it mean to be Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said, you have no fear. That was his answer. Class over? That's it? Okay. No fear. No fear at all. Absolutely no fear. Can you imagine coming to that level of consciousness? Absolutely no fear whatsoever. Because you're completely Krishna conscious, because you're, and it's not an artificial, it's not artificial, nor is it based upon some type of material adjustment. Because there was a line of clothing, wasn't it? Years ago, remember that? No fear. You had the no fear, no fear, no fear. There's a very, actually it was a good book. It's a good book. A few decades ago. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Remember that one? Did you ever read that one? Because we're all afraid of things in our life, about taking risk and going ahead and this and that. Should I do this and so on? So there's a whole book about just feel the fear and do it anyways. Now that's good advice as long as you're doing the right thing. If you're doing the wrong thing, you should keep fearing it and don't do it. So that's another issue, what's right and what's wrong. But fear is there because it's the material world and we don't really know what's going to happen, do we? We have no idea what's going to happen. And we have so many shortcomings and doubts and so on. So it's called a doubtless and fearless way of success for all living entities is the process of devotional service, because the devotee feels Krishna's presence. Prabhupada gives an example, maybe from his own life, about a little boy holding on to his father's hand at the zoo, and the lion is roaring, and the little boy is completely fearless. My daddy will protect me, right? He's just holding on. His little hand is holding on because my father will protect me. So, and that's brought up very beautifully in the story of Prahlad Maharaj. How he is so fearless because he always felt Lord Nrsingadev in his heart, the Lord in his heart, completely fearless, and what he went through. So this is brought up, and for us to understand what the shift in consciousness is as we progress in Krishna consciousness. And it's an amazing, not amazing, it's the word, I don't even know what the word is. I have to ask our English editor here. What is a better word than even amazing? I mean, something so incredibly amazing to be Krishna conscious. It's beyond words, practically, isn't it? And but that's what we're aspiring for. And actually, it's what we all want to be. Does anyone like being fearful? Does anyone like being afraid? I don't mean the kind of people like watching scary movies. Is anyone out there like that? They like gory, scary movies? Usually a Vaishnav wouldn't, unless it's like the story of Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah, those are okay. Those are good. Actually, that's another thing. But you know the kind I'm talking about, where you scare yourself. There's people, some people, they like that. They go to a movie and they like being scared. That's the word, actually. That's the word, not scared. Horror movies like that. Like that. So, but to be fearless and to have the realization that, like I said earlier, don't care a fig. Why do they use figs anyways? What is about, how come figs get the rap? Don't care a fig for liberation. You know, why they say like, don't care a crab apple or a cranberry or something like that. Why a fig? They're small, but and then this not considering the heavenly planets and the hellish planets to be the same. Now this is a very important point. We've got just a minute or two I want to bring up. That's the point I want to bring up. I was just hearing this the other day. There we have attraction and repulsion, and we have indifference. Attraction, repulsion, and indifference. Now the materialist is attracted to the material energy. Now repulsion is actually the other side of the coin. Some people, I don't like this, I don't like that, but actually they do. But it's their repulsion is still they're absorbed in material consciousness, like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Whereas a devotee is indifferent. They're not attracted or repulsed by it. They're just indifferent to the whole thing. They're just not at all interested. Not at all interested whatsoever. And that's the level we're supposed to come to. Sometimes, to the extent a person, a transcendentalist or aspiring transcendentalist, they manifest their anger and disgust and so on towards things, but actually it's this other side of the coin, and they're actually really still attracted, but to protect themselves, they put up this facade of like that. That's what's going on, I mean, it's a mundane example, but do you want a mundane example? There was a Three Stooges episode once. Do you know is that before your time? Okay. And they all got very, very frustrated with women, and they formed a club called the Women Haters Club, and they all sat around talking about they all didn't like women, and all I remember is at the end of it they all got married, so it didn't work, right? That so, but it's just because they're so attached. Oh, it's sour grapes. That's a good example. Sour grapes, right? I couldn't get it. Oh, they must be sour. Right, the story about the fox wanting the grapes, and because he couldn't get it. Oh, they're probably sour anyways. You're still attached. You're not detached at all. So that's not Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness, you're indifferent because you have param drishtva. You have a higher taste. You have a higher taste. You're just not concerned. Just not concerned. Like that. Just no, thank you. Someone offers you something. No, thank you. Thank you. It's like Prabhupada on the morning walk, and the guy's fishing, and offered Prabhupada a fish. Prabhupada said, no, you enjoy. And he kept walking, and then later under his breath he said, and suffer. So Prabhupada's not interested. It's just, not really, we're not interested in those things. People offer, it's not, because we're indifferent because we have something else. So, oh, would you like to go to the heavenly planets? Yes, you would. We all would. If there was a flight on that patio right now to Indraloka, I think we get a few people going. And then they start the brochures there, and they have little, now not just brochures, but videos. Oh, well, looks pretty good. Maybe I could preach in Indraloka. Looks good to me. Like that. Or, out that door, sorry, you all have to go to hell. I have to go to hell? Yeah, and it's even worse than the 5th canto. Oh no. So, happiness. But for a devotee, it's like, I'll go either way. Wherever Krishna wants me to go, I'll go to the heavenly planets, I'll go to hell, where it doesn't matter. Just to preach. Like that. Is that one remembrance where the devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, where are you going next? You know that one? He asked Prabhupada. He actually asked his devotee to ask Prabhupada. It was like a, rank and file devotee. It was in Australia or something like that. And Prabhupada's servant asked on his behalf. You know what Prabhupada's answer was? After this life, he said, where are you going next? Not like, where are you going after Australia? After this life, where are you going? That's an interesting question. You know what Prabhupada answered? You know? You're shaking your head, yes. Yeah, he said, go preach in the hellish planets. Prabhupada said, I think that's where I'm going to go. And there's one devotee mentioned about Srila Bhakti Siddhanta looking at the moon and asked him why he said, I think I'll go with my next life and preach there. Like that. So devotees are preaching everywhere. They just go and preach. That's what they want to do. They're just happy preaching and being Krishna conscious. And the external, it doesn't really matter. They're not concerned at all. They just want to preach. So this is a very exalted level of consciousness, so we can aspire for it. But that's what we're doing. We're aspiring for this level of consciousness. So it's getting a little late. We can open up for more discussion or questions. Anyone have anything they'd like to say?
Well, forgive me, but you said that Prabhupada quoted that verse, Vāsudeva served me tea, twice in the purport.
Mm-hmm.
No. Three times.
Okay. Well, 2 is within 3.
What is that? Oh yeah, well that's what he definitely did 2, but he also did 1.
So I took my glasses off after I counted 2. So I have an excuse. Yeah, could drop down here. Anything else? Any questions about the very important point about attachment, repulsion, and indifference? And you have to ask yourself, where are we? Because, I mean, it's a defense measure to be repulsed or put up a barrier, sometimes very, very helpful, but that's not going to last. It's not going to last. So we have to come to the level of being indifferent to happiness or distress. Sama dukkha sukha dhiram, right? To be equal disposed in happiness and distress. And how is that possible? It's because we're on a different level of consciousness. Go ahead.
It seems some things devotees may be repulsed by, like eating fish or something. And, well, I guess you gave the example of kind of, you could say a devotee's not interested in eating fish. But I remember the first Sunday feast where Devotee spoke.
That's Old English.
Yeah, Old English. The first one of Devotee Sunday feast classes which I attended, I remember old Bhakti John, Devotee gave the example of Yamunacharya, spitting at the thought of his old sex life, how he used to be absorbed in sex life. And now when he thinks about that, he just spits at the thought. And Bhakti John raised his hand later and said that, that doesn't seem very transcendental. It seems that he's still repulsed by it. And so he's not just, transcendental would be he thinks back and just doesn't really, he's not attracted by it, he's not. But it seems Yamunacharya is not so transcendental yet when he's spitting at the thought. So what would we say about that? I don't remember what Devotee said.
Do you remember what you said, Dravida?
I don't think he...
One thing I would say is that Jamunacharya was lamenting very much and feeling bad about his own consciousness at that time. That's what was going on. And when we do something really, really act or think really un-Krishna conscious, we regret it very, very much. And well, how could I ever think that or have done that, or what a waste, what a, in that sense, one is, and in general, it's just it's not something, right, but to because we actually had that in our movement at one time. Remember Gargamuni Swami and his party? Did they ever come through where you were? He had trained his brahmacharis not only to spit or go like this, not spit, but go when they saw a woman in the temple, but even householders. I was a young brahmachari in Boston, and I thought, come on, what's going on here? This party didn't last very long, but they're all fired up, just fired up. And just and they wouldn't even go to the regular Bhagavatam class. I remember they had a room upstairs where he gave class because a householder would be giving Bhagavatam class. They didn't want to hear a householder give class. And there were women in the classroom. So this is just like the Three Stooges, the Women Haters Club, So that's not our position whatsoever, but it's misunderstanding of what that verse from Jamunacharya. Go ahead.
It's important to understand the context of that whole verse. It begins, Yadavadi Mamacheta Krishna Pada Vinde Namanavada Sadhaman Yuditam Rantamasi. Now, for a long time, he had been, I don't know if he fell down, but he won that contest, and then he took the kingdom and he got involved. But he hadn't been tasting moment to moment the pleasure of serving Krishna's lotus feet, relishing. And so what he's saying there is that now I've revived my, bhakti, and I'm actually tasting it every moment, this wonderful transcendental pleasure. Then when these memories come up, it boils up, like a bubble, and he just feels repulsed by it, by what he did. It's a type of showing regret, I don't think that we can say, well, therefore every householder should be repulsed in that way. That's not what he's saying there.
Right.
But he's showing the incredible effect of really being situated again, in this case, in the highest level of relishing at every moment in the devotional taste, and how that just completely eclipses any other attraction, and even gives you repulsion against it. It's not like a moment-to-moment repulsion. It's just a memory that comes, and you say, "Oh God, how could I have done that?" Type of thing. That's the way I understand.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's in reference to Prabhupada speaking about that verse, but Prabhupada did say we should regret. A devotee should regret their past life. Like, what did I do? Not like, those were the days, my friend. I thought that, right? Shouldn't be like that. Oh, I was really having a good time. Oh, when will that day be mine when I can do that again? No. It's like, we regret so much. Oh, what? Go ahead, Balaram. I'm sorry. I'm just digressing.
What was that?
I'm digressing.
No,
Go ahead.
that's fine. Yeah, analyzing somebody's consciousness who's a beginner versus an advanced devotee like Yamunacharya, we see that how their emotions and how they react to the world and how they see the world is obviously a lot different. So you have like a neophyte, like we were talking about, the neophyte's disgust with, or their so-called disgust, which it's just actually attraction. But I would think, and we would say that you could be disgusted but also advanced in Krishna consciousness, unlike a neophyte who's disgusted but they're actually just attracted. So, for example, we could think of examples like, okay, there's some disgusting smell of some abominable food or something, and you could feel disgust. It doesn't have to be like that's not saying that you're attracted to it. You're just disgusted by it. It's just objectively disgusting. So similarly, like a advanced devotee, it's not that it's like they're actually feeling attraction, but it's just like, it's disgusting in that way. So because the emotions can be spiritualized, like anger and all these different things. It doesn't have to say it's attraction, you know. Anyways, I'm just saying. In addition to what the devotee said.
I had next like 2 questions. One pertaining to this pastime about the Sudarshan chakra. If it was following him for about a year, and we're like singing the glories, how could it not just catch him? Was this like, I was just kind of perplexed. How did Sudarshan chakra didn't catch Devasa Muni after a whole year chasing him, even waiting at certain points when he went to demigods to offer, like even for like prayers and stuff. Yeah. And then I had another one after that.
Many pastimes like this, Krishna's doing this just to purify that devotee. Just like Krishna told Indra, I did this whole pastime just for you. Because you're my devotee and you've let pride just, carry away your consciousness. So I just wanted to teach you how to be humble. The whole pastime, Krishna's saying, just to teach you to be humble, my dear Indra. So Devasa Muni is actually dear to the Lord. And just last week or last time I spoke or whatever, it was very nice. Krishna's telling Devasa, blah, blah, very nice. And just go and apologize. He wasn't upset with him. So obviously, within a fraction of a second, Sudarshan could have split him right in two. So it's part of the pastime of just kind of like pushing him. You can say he's like pushing him. Come on. First, I want you to show everyone that Lord Brahman and Lord Shiva are insignificant in comparison to me. And then I want you to push them all the way to me, and for me to show that I can't even forgive you. You have to go to the devotee. Devotees are greater than me. So it's all part of the pastime, and Sudarshan was pushing Devasa Muni different places, and then pushing him right back for him to apologize and to understand the whole pastime is to understand the glory of his devotee. So he was participating in the pastime. It wasn't a pastime of, can you catch up to him and annihilate him? He could have done that in less than a second. So obviously there was another reason, much more glorious reason. Because Devasa Muni was off. He just needed to be corrected. So that's very important to understand in our preaching and our understanding of ourselves and being very kind to others that, we don't need to annihilate people with the philosophy or this or that. We need to try to help people change their heart. Like that. Yeah, another question?
Thank you, that was nice. And then also, you were mentioning about how we should develop some type of higher taste. And by chanting the holy names, we should develop this higher taste. But if we don't, is that considered, the 10th offense of kind of just having our attachment to our mundane kind of taste and stuff? We're not actually experiencing some type of pleasure, but it kind of seems like the hard, it's been chanting, I have so much attachments or desires, you could say, but so I'm committing some type of offense.
Yeah, I'll give an example. When you get married, Sankashan, you should take a boat, okay? And get all your groomsmen and your family on that boat. And get on it at night, okay? You get on the boat at night, and you're going to go down river to where your bride lives. But that night, no, he's going to stay on the boat, and you're going to be very, very tired. You'll all take rest. And you get up in the morning, and the boat hasn't gone anywhere because the boatman forgot to pull the anchor out. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gives that example. Now and he said, I was rowing all night long. ¿Qué pasó, Baba? That's what you say when you get up, right? He's all upset. I'm supposed to get married. And I'm not going to show up in time for my wedding. Ay. So, all upset. And the boatman goes, and you heard it. The sound of the oars? Whoosh, whoosh, all night long. But he didn't go anywhere because the anchor wasn't pulled up. So in the same way, that last offense against the holy name, we just don't pull up the anchor. We're chanting and this and that, and doing so many different things, but if we don't pull up the anchor, it doesn't seem like we go very far. So that's the point you're making. So we've got to pull up those anchors, and we'll get there. Hope you like that example. Anything else? Are you making a comment about him getting married? Okay. We can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.